having a personal tie to the problem that you're trying to solve has been the most impactful part for me on those days where it feels really tumultuous and hard and I'm fundraising and I feel like, what am I doing wrong? Or is it supposed to be this hard? Or I think about how the lows were when I had experienced that form of just every single day you're receiving harmful messages or fake accounts trying to impersonate you, deep fake attempts. I think back to that girl that thought it was never going to end, and that girl that just didn't know what to do, didn't have any options. I don't want any other women and girls to have to face that.
Hi, I'm Boaz, founder and CEO of Augmented AI, and I'm excited that you're tuning in to the Shift AI podcast, a show that explores what it takes to thrive and adapt to the changing workplace in the digital age of remote work and AI. In today's episode, I'm thrilled to have Melissa Hutchins as our guest. Melissa is the CEO of Certifi AI and is building a company that is a trusted detection tool, advocating for women and girls who are disproportionately impacted by AI-manipulated images and videos. If you're someone interested in responsible and ethical AI and tools that are being created to defend against malicious deepfakes, you are not going to want to miss this episode. We also want to send out a special thank you to Augmented AI for sponsoring this episode. This is going to be a great show, and we're super excited to have Melissa on today. We can't wait to learn more from her. Let's get to it. All right, Melissa, thanks for being on the Shift AI podcast. I'm super excited to have you on today.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much, Boaz, for inviting me on.
Well, I always start the show with a little bit of background on the guests, and yours is a very interesting background. You'll be able to kind of elaborate, but you worked at Expedia for a little while. You worked at Disney for a little while, which I'm interested to hear more about that. And I think all of those experiences led to ultimately what you're doing now, which is the CEO of Certifi AI. And I know that in your experience, you kind of always wanted to lead a company. And so I'm really excited to hear about your background. You were a business and marketing major, is that right? When you graduated from college?
Yes. So I went to school for business economics and marketing, and kind of going into that with the notion that I really wanted to be the CEO of my own company one day. I really love the process of building solutions to problems. And that was really within the foundation of just like what I majored in school. After graduating, I was just this very hungry college postgraduate. No experience, like little to no experience, but hungry for experience, and knew I wanted to be in Seattle, and had some knowledge to Expedia Group from a women in STEM organization I was involved with, and we visited their campus, and I just kind of knew that I wanted to pursue a job at that company. And I came to find out about a networking event of some, it was kind of a networking event that was happening at the Expedia Group headquarters in Seattle called Who Wants to Be a Product Manager? And it also happened to be an employee only event. But me being kind of this hungry post-grad, thinking what's the worst that could happen if I showed up? And so I did. I came an hour early when they were still setting up for the event, asked the organizers if they needed any help, just checking, like setting up, and ended up checking people into the event. So just like added my name at the bottom of the list and blended in the best I could. But yeah, introduced myself to one of the panelists who was an SVP of product management at Expedia Group, and asked him for coffee. Just really, and I told him the truth. He thought it was hilarious, that kind of my way of getting in, and asked him for coffee. And he was the first person that really gave me like a solid yes, that gave me just a chance. And
That's great.
yeah, like met with him. And then a few weeks later, my manager or soon to be manager, I got an email from her saying, this guy that you met with a couple of weeks ago, we have this role and you were the one, like you were the only one that he wanted for this role. So here's the job description. Are you interested? If you are, we'll fly you out as soon as possible. So that was like kind of my first experience of right place at the right time. But I think luck is also a combination of you're actively doing the work and I don't know, you get 50 no's before you get that one yes, or 100 no's before you get that
Yeah.
one yes. But it just is like, keep going and you'll eventually get that yes.
Yeah. Well, that hustle is going to serve you well as a CEO raising money for your first startup, for sure. For sure. Now, I know you grew up in a much smaller town than Seattle. I always like to ask the question about a person's first job where they actually got paid. And tell me about the town that you grew up in. Tell me a little bit about your family and what was the first job where you actually got a paycheck?
Yeah. So the first job that I actually was making a paycheck, it was a summer job. I think I was 15 or 16. And I was an ice cream scooper at Ben and Jerry's. It was in a town called Lake George, and it's kind of closer to the Adirondack Mountains. It's a very popular summer spot for people in New York City that'll come up north for the summer. And yeah, I
Nice.
scooped ice cream there. And that was a really, really good first experience because it taught me a lot about people. Also, like following that first job, I had waitressed a lot. And I think those types of customer service jobs, especially when it's like first jobs, you're early on still, is so essential because it teaches you so much about people and it gives you a lot of different perspectives, and just a lot of hard work that you recognize how much work goes into like you recognize the value of a dollar, whereas before maybe things are being covered by parents or you don't have that
Yeah.
perspective.
What did your parents do for a living? Were they entrepreneurs? Were they into business? Is that what kind of spurred you on to get excited about starting your own company?
Yeah. So I would say my parents are just both very, very hardworking and determined to execute on whatever they set their mind to. My mother, she is a fashion designer and she mainly worked within the ski and outerwear apparel. So she was really early on at Nike and traveled a lot when I was younger. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I would always beg her to like take me to her manufacturing trips in Asia, and like getting to explore countries for work was like so cool to me. And my father, he's a civil engineer and he also has his own engineering company. My mom now, she has a bunch of entrepreneurial projects. So we definitely share a lot of those same passions in building impactful solutions, but a lot of influence from my parents and just the foundation that they set for my sister and I would say one of the most valuable principles that my parents ingrained within us is that same type of resilience, fully committing to what you're setting your mind for, your goals, and not turning back. And also, I think this is a really valuable general characteristic just of following through to what you say you're going to do. It can be friendships, relationships, virtually any scenario that you're making a commitment. If you say you're going to do it, you say you're going to be there, you show up. And that's a foundation that I'm so grateful for and take a lot of pride in.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I want to get into the existing business because it's such a, what struck me when I first learned about Certifi AI was just the personal nature of the story. And I was also interested because I'm involved in companies that are dealing with deep fakes and misinformation in the political sphere and in society and otherwise. And your company is really about that. So maybe start by just explaining to the audience what Certify AI does, and then link that back to your personal story and kind of how that played itself out in the founding of this company.
Yeah, of course. I'm really excited to share more of the work that we're doing at Certify AI, and really at the highest of levels, Certify AI is a tool that conducts a multi-tier analysis and detects whether or not an image or video has been modified in some shape or form from either the original photo that had been taken or a completely AI generated image. And we really look at and determined if the content could also be used for malicious purposes, especially when we're talking about women and girls. We're seeing so much of the impact for them being within uh, non-consensual AI generated images, sexual exploitation, deepfake porn, as a lot of people are kind of referencing. And where my own personal experience comes into this is I had gone through pretty recently a severe case, recently as in with the past couple of years, a severe case of cyberstalking and cyber harassment. And this was prior to some of these AI tools becoming very publicly available and accessible. So it was a combination of the knowledge and experience I had existing in technical development, but also the personal experience I had just seeing how large the gaps were between technical advancements and user protections. And now we have this new technology that doesn't have a lot of safeguards, that doesn't have a lot of regulation, and you're able to create virtually any scenario that you want. And that was just alarms in my head of all the different ways that it could be abused and just used against people. So that was a big motivation for starting the company.
Yeah.
And we're really aiming to provide a trusted detection tool that can advocate for women and girls that are disproportionately impacted by AI manipulated videos and images, and just simply can't afford to wait any longer.
Yeah. Well, we know it's a huge, huge problem. And you're in the process of fundraising. So far to date, you bootstrapped these efforts, but you're actually going to be releasing a new product soon. Can you talk as much as you can talk about your new product and kind of what you're releasing, and then walk us through, the what it actually does? It recognizes the images as being fake or being manipulated, but what happens next? If you're somebody that finds themselves in this position, talk about how your product helps those individuals.
Yeah, of course. So kind of going off of your original point, we're just super excited to be releasing our initial MVP and have just been working really hard over the past couple of months to build it to this point, and opening the product up to a select number of users to really just test the system as much as possible and get that level of accuracy up, just that having it be very consistent. And the
Yeah.
only way that you achieve that is to get as much testing, get as much feedback. And really, the initial version is going to be more on the side of watermarking images. So for our initial product, we are able to take in any photo. Right now, we're starting with photos, and we're able to put invisible watermarks within photos. And then anytime there's been manipulation within that photo, we'll be able to then notify users that whether it's been posted or people can do manual checks within our system if a photo has been altered. This is particularly relevant for any kind of legal case where we need to be keeping track of evidentiary support. There's evidence going back and forth from prosecution to defense. There could be manipulations in there that may be minute and minute, or seems like nothing's been done, but when you're putting that through, can then verify that, okay, X, Y, and Z had been taken out of the original photo, or this is a derivative of the original photo, but has been manipulated. So that is really where our initial product is going to be providing a lot of value and just keeping track of what has been done to photos. And we have our own in-house watermarking. So it's just really exciting to, and that's, I want to be able to share more, but we have some really exciting news in the next couple of weeks that, it's really great to see it come full circle and to have now this tool that's usable and that's tangible. And it gives me so much, myself and my team, so much more fuel to move even faster, because we know that we're going to be able to revolutionize the way that images are validated.
Before we go further with the interview, I want to take a moment to tell you about one of our podcast sponsors, Augmented AI, and how they are transforming businesses with Gen AI solutions. Augmented AI specializes in helping organizations uncover and address internal workflow challenges that Gen AI can solve. Their comprehensive process starts by identifying and prioritizing business problems, and then assessing each based on value, effort, and risk. Once a problem is selected, the Augmented AI team tests and validates the solution to ensure that it works. Only after this thorough validation do they draft technical requirements, which serve as a blueprint for building and deploying the solutions. The real beauty of partnering with Augmented AI is that they don't just stop at strategy and feasibility studies. They actually stand up the solutions and manage them for you so you can focus on what you do best. If you're interested in experiencing this innovative approach to deploying Gen AI solutions, visit simplyaugmented.ai and click on the Learn More button. That's simplyaugmented.ai. Now back to the episode. Yeah, it's really, really exciting. You're already getting traction. I saw that the GeekWire published an article that you were in recently, and then I think it's the timing of this, given all the things that are happening and how fast they're happening in the AI space, is really good. So it'll be interesting to see how things develop as you start fundraising. I know you've just started. So there's a lot of founders and entrepreneurs that listen to this show, and a lot of female founders out there that also come up to me and talk to me about the show and are very interested in the learnings that from the show. What do you say to young entrepreneurs and founders out there? What are the challenges that you face? What are the things that you're learning along the way, and what can you share with the audience?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I would say one of the biggest or the greatest learnings in a couple months, it feels like, I'm coming on 1 year in August of starting this company, which feels just so crazy that it's been that long. But I would say resilience is necessary. And most founders can very much agree that there are ups and downs, there are highs and lows, there are days where you feel like you're making a lot of progress and you're on top of the world. And there are days where you're questioning yourself, you're overthinking. And having a personal tie to the product or to the problem that you're trying to solve has been the most impactful part for me on those days where it feels really tumultuous and hard, and I'm fundraising and I feel like I'm I'm just like, what am I doing wrong? Or is it supposed to be this hard? Or X, Y, and Z? I always have something to come back to. I always have that picture in my mind. And it sounds bad in some ways, but I think about how low the lows were when I had experienced that form of just every single day you're receiving harmful messages or fake accounts trying to impersonate you, deep fake attempts, just absolute merciless commitment to having this harmful impact. And I think back to that girl that thought it was never going to end, and that girl that just didn't know what to do, didn't have any options. And I want to provide, I don't want any other women and girls to have to face that. And it's what I come back to always at the end of the day. And I will never stop advocating for those girls, for women and girls, because they are at such a high risk to having deep fakes and face swaps and just the harmful impacts that this type of technology has the potential to create. So I would say having a personal, tying it back to one thing, having a personal tie to the problem that you're trying to solve is very helpful. And in my mind is almost essential.
And now, before we dive deeper, I want to take a quick moment and tell you a little bit about one of our podcast partners. As a listener of this show, I know you're trying to stay on top of all things AI and tech, which is why you have to check out the amazing GeekWire podcast, produced by GeekWire and hosted by Todd Bishop. It's a treasure of insights featuring industry leaders and the latest tech trends that are shaping our world, and the perfect companion podcast to Shift AI. GeekWire podcast is where technology meets curiosity and covers the world of technology, startups, and geek culture. Expand your tech horizons and join the conversation. Tune into the GeekWire podcast today, a perfect complement to our own discussions here. Don't miss out. Follow the GeekWire podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or your favorite listening app. Now back to the episode. Powerful story. And I think when you do have those rough days, which we all do as entrepreneurs, it is helpful to be able to point back to that. Who along your journey has been helpful to you? When you think about the mentors that you've had in your life and have now, who are the people that come to mind?
Yeah, I think mentors are so important in starting a company, like an entrepreneurial journey, feeling like you're not alone. Because in my early days where I was a solo founder and trying to figure it all out on my own, it was very lonely. And you need that sense of community, or at least somebody that kind of can help you feel like these aren't siloed issues. Like there are other people that kind of face these lows or these hurdles, and you're not alone. I would say early on in my career, the SVP at Expedia that initially took a chance on me, his name is David Coons, and he took this huge risk by bringing on an inexperienced college graduate. I didn't have any previous internship with Expedia, but he saw something and took a chance on me. Him and my first manager, her name is Maggie Pimentel, they both provided such valuable mentorship in my early years and just truly wanted to see me succeed. As far as the space that I'm currently in now, there are a number of different individuals that I really, really look up to. To name a couple, Hani Farid, Danielle Citron, Marianne Franks, all of which serve as board members on the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, and just so articulate and dedicated to this cause. All role models of mine that I'd love to be able to work with one day. So there's so many individuals that come to mind, both on the mentorship side and the inspiration side, the role model, who, like, what kind of person I aspire to be. But at the end of the day, too, my mom, my parents had done such an amazing job raising both myself and my sister. And I'm so grateful for the environment that they brought us up in, and just the hustle ethic, like the work ethic that they built into the both of us, has been instrumental towards just my journey.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you bring up mentors that are involved in AI safety, and AI safety and responsibility is just such a interesting and hot topic right now. I think when I talk to people out there in the world, that's one of the first things that comes up, whether it's talking about business, society, politics. Safety and security is always one of the first things that they talk about. And so I think what you're trying to do with this company is going to have a huge impact. So I really commend you. When you think about the future, though, and a lot of this show is about the future of work. We talk about the way that how work is going to change for individuals, but what you're doing is going to really have an impact on society in a lot of ways. And so when you think about the future and the uncertainty, but also the excitement for you, how would you describe the future of work, of society, in 2 words? And then you can elaborate.
Yeah. So that's a loaded question. I would narrow it down. The 2 words that I would narrow it down to would be ethical AI. And I say this because AI is going to have such a huge role in our future of work. As you know, this is what your expertise is in, and we need to be building the foundations of AI with very ethical practices, just very strong safeguards in place so that we can utilize the amazing benefits of artificial intelligence without having to experience some of those more harmful aspects. So the ways that it can be abused, just really continuing to improve our work processes through strategic use of AI, and being sure that we're keeping measurements of these productivity metrics so that we can continue to iterate and just dive deeper into those metrics that are showing to be really successful and beneficial, and then find ways to really mitigate for the not so useful or harmful use cases of AI.
Absolutely. Well, I am really excited for this next journey. I know things are moving fast in the AI space, and you're on a fundraising cycle right now that's going to last through the summer, I'm sure, and into the fall. And so I'm really rooting for you. I'm excited about another Seattle AI company that is targeting this demographic and trying to solve these problems. I think it's really interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how your journey moves forward.
Yeah. I'm just really excited to be able to take my experience and seeing how, again, like I mentioned earlier, how large the gaps were, and being able to really take that and apply it for good. And just when you're looking at cyber crimes and the percentage of those that are prosecuted against, you're looking at 0.3%, which is 3 out of 1,000 when it comes to malicious cyber incidences and actual arrests and things being prosecuted. So raising awareness to the fact that cyber crimes are not victimless crimes, there is a true impact towards these types of crimes, and we need to be taking them more seriously. We need to be really proactive about diversifying who is in the room when technology is being developed, and having a bunch of unique perspectives in those rooms. Because if you only have a very small set of just personas or experiences, you're not necessarily going to have somebody raising a hand at the way in which a new feature can be abused. And we can no longer accept that narrow view of how technology is going to be used, because we have many different types of people using technology, as we know. And that's what's super exciting about our work is we're just really dedicated towards laying those safeguards and advocating for those groups that have been underserved for a very long time. And yeah, we're really, really excited about putting our first product out there and moving as fast as possible.
Well, I'm excited for your product to get released, and we're going to be looking out for it. How should people reach out to you? What's the best way as you're posting about your company and also just about the technology that you guys are developing?
Yeah. So I would say reach out through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the best, where I'm most active. Also, I'm happy to provide additional information like email, but I would say LinkedIn would be the way to go.
Awesome. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for being on the show. We're really excited for you and excited to see the product released onto the street. And we hope we can have you back on the show one day and talk more about this issue. So thank you, Melissa. I appreciate you being on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Such a pleasure to have Melissa as our guest on today's episode. Melissa's passion for combating deepfakes and manipulated images and videos has driven her to bootstrap a startup that is leading the way in advocating for women and girls who are adversely impacted. If you want to stay connected to Melissa, you can find her on LinkedIn. If you're interested in how she thinks about ethical AI, definitely connect with her and keep up with her posts and activities online. I continue to be amazed by the guests we've had on the show, and I'm excited about the ones joining us in the near future. I truly appreciate you spending your time with us. Thank you for listening to the episode, and don't forget to subscribe to the Shift AI podcast for more exciting interviews and to the Augmented AI weekly newsletter for updates on how AI can help you scale your business. The Shift AI podcast is syndicated by GeekWire, and we are grateful to have the show sponsored by Augmented AI. Our theme music was created by Dave Angel.